All right, one last video, and this has to do with some of the skills and acronyms that DBT uses in some of the modules. I've just selected a few. There is so many to go over. Some of the ones that I really enjoy, the wise mind principle is probably one of the ones that can really be integrated into most other modalities, because it really has to do with kind of the basics of understanding how emotion works and how the cognitions work, and how we really as humans need to begin to learn to come to a nice middle ground, that life is full of both emotions and cognitions and cognitive aspects, that we can't just live in one world or the other. So the wise mind principle has two circles that overlap one another in a Venn diagram here, that has emotion mind on one hand, reasonable mind on the other, and then this middle wise mind. Essentially, what is the healthy balance between having an emotion, balancing that with reason, and what is a healthy outcome? An emotion mind typically is explained as emotions that are hot, that are often based off of mood, and that these are sometimes individuals, especially those that live primarily in the emotion mind, often are driven by their feelings, the mood that they're in. They have urges to do and say things, and that oftentimes facts, logic, reason are kind of put to the side, or not really important. So as clients begin to understand that emotions are not bad, however, emotions can kind of color and tint the way that we see the world, both ourselves, others, and the world around us, and that living purely out of emotion is not helpful or healthy. Although emotions can be a great part of life, they also can lead us down and have consequences and behaviors that, once again, labeling them as not helpful or healthy. On the other hand, the reason mind is only ruled by facts, only ruled by reason and logic. It doesn't kind of consider or validate emotions, or consider the kind of the content and context of situations that allow for emotions to be present. In fact, a reasonable mind even takes kind of out of consideration values and feelings that aren't important. So reason helps in that it kind of sticks to the facts. It's rational based and task focused. But if you're only living in reason mind and not including emotion, then life gets also pretty rocky. When it comes to relationships, when it comes to situations, because it's not considering oftentimes the emotion of others or the emotion of the situation. So the wise mind, as Marshall Linehan really kind of describes, is this inner wisdom that we can get to and should strive for. We say wise mind, so it's this balance of reason with emotion, and finding out what is a healthy decision for us, and avoiding living life in the two extremes. So using the word "and" is critical. So it's finding a synthesis to say, I'm feeling this emotion, I'm balancing it with these facts, now I'm going to act out of this wise mind in the middle. This can also be applied to addiction. This is a really neat way to explain addiction, especially those working in substance use, or with individuals with substance use. It's this idea of addiction mind, which is heavy into, really kind of urges, and that kind of gives up on oneself to the negative aspects of addiction. So it's the escape, it's the urges, it's this addiction mind that a person begins to define themselves by addiction. You also then have this sobriety mind that really thinks that I'm not vulnerable to addiction. I've kicked this. I'm not thinking of urges. I'm not thinking of kind of the emotional side of addiction. It's sobriety or nothing. And so you kind of lose out on, or forget kind of this mindfulness that urges are still there, prompting events are still there, and that you need to consider that. And then the recovery mind is the awareness of both, that there are powerful aspects of the addiction mind, the urges, the emotions, the sobriety mind that talks about that, that you're not vulnerable, you're invincible, and coming to this wise middle of recovery mind of just understanding and accepting both so that you can work through and understand addiction. That's the wise mind principle. This is great for, as I said, integrating into most any sort of modality, and is very simple to explain to clients and can be very helpful for them to navigate various prompting events, if you will, to understand that emotion is present, what are the facts, and what's a wise decision. Some other elements and concepts that DBT uses is all about mindfulness. Mindfulness is defined into what skills and how skills. So DBT says some of the what skills. So what is mindfulness? So mindfulness is observing, so it's paying attention to the present moment. It's describing, so putting into words, what actually are you observing? What are you paying attention to? And actually describing, staying present enough to point out what are the sights, smells, sounds, tastes, all of that stuff. And then 3, the what skills is to participate. So be in the activity fully. So be there, whatever you're doing, be present. Knowing and being aware that there's distractions, but bringing yourself back and participating fully in what's going on. So what are the how skills? So how to be mindful, or how to practice mindfulness, is practice mindfulness in a very non-judgmental manner. So that is whatever thoughts come up or feelings come up, that we're removing words such as good or bad, positive or negative. We're really looking at thoughts as being thoughts, emotions as being emotions, and not reacting to them, but just being non-judgmental. One, mindfully. So this really is kind of being present once again in the moment, and understanding that mindfulness does involve sometimes becoming distracted or having distractions around you. So being mindful, being in the moment and being present, and then effectively doing it. So learning how to do mindfulness in a way that works for the individual, whatever it takes to kind of realize that you're in the moment, and staying present and observe and describe and all of those things that are involved in the what skills. So how skills is really the implementation of doing it effectively. So that really is kind of mindfulness in a nutshell. There's different YouTube videos that have to do with mindfulness, that have to do with how to practice it. You can assign clients to do mindfulness skills and practice. Look up on YouTube. It has like little 5-minute mindfulness exercises that clients you can assign to have them practice various times during the week. Here's another one that I really enjoy. This is the opposite to action and emotion skills. Opposite action or opposite to emotion skills. This is really neat. This gets clients to recognize kind of what the gut reaction is, what kind of the initial reaction, and then how to do the opposite. So for example, anger, if you're getting angry, it makes us want to attack or defend ourselves. In that moment when we're feeling that, what we should do and know is the opposite of that is where we should be heading. So once we realize, oh, I'm feeling so angry, I want to attack, it's knowing, I need to head towards kindness, or I need to walk away rather than go towards the conflict. I need to walk away from the conflict and cool down. Shame. So shame might be we want to hide, we want to isolate, we want to get away from people, or we want to just kind of slump away. Knowing that and then doing the opposite of realizing, what the most helpful action would be to raise our head up, use eye contact, shoulders back, let's not isolate, let's get out and practice. And there's some of the other ones. Depression makes us want to be inactive, avoid contact. Once again, if a individual is feeling like that, they don't want to be inactive, it's actually the opposite emotion or opposite action that we need to be heading towards as individuals and clients, and actually get out and do something. Let's look very quickly at some of the ABCs of DBT. The A in DBT is to accumulate positive emotions. So really starting to work to do pleasant things that are possible. So really striving to accumulate or build up this reserve of positive emotions during the day. Let's not just be satisfied to let's just see how the day goes, but let's start doing pleasant things. The more longer term aspect of that accumulation is to make life changes that are positive, that you can build into the future. So that's critical. The B is build mastery. So you want to do things that help you feel competent, that you start to implement those skills to really combat those early feelings of depression, some of those cognitive distortions that you're helpless and hopeless. So building mastery and utilizing and learning you can develop skills is critical, that you don't have to be perfect, but striving and improvement is critical. C is cope ahead of time with emotional situations. So you definitely want a plan. This is like that behavioral chain analysis where you do a prevention plan, or you know a prevention plan. You're rehearsing ahead of time so you can skillfully enter emotional situations and be prepared no matter what it is. So ABC, accumulate positive emotions, you build mastery with skills, and then you learn how to cope ahead of time so that you're not just entering every situation as though it's a brand new thing and it's unexpected. Although it may be, if you've coped ahead of time, you can enter even difficult situations much more prepared. The next one is the please skill. So please begins with physical illness, or to beginning to treat physical illness. So if there's things going on physically, clients really need to work on making sure they're on top of that. I have many clients that any number of physical conditions, they really need to work on that. That can include such things as like thyroid issues, diabetes issues, pain, whatever it may be. Looking to treat those physical illnesses is important. The L portion is also part of treating the physical illness. So it's PL is how DBT breaks it down. So it's part of the same thing, physical illness. Then you have eating, a balanced eating. This is important in DBT that Marsha Linehan talks about, is making sure that there is a balance in how we eat, and are we eating healthy? This doesn't mean you have to eat perfectly, but is there a balance in the way that we eat? Because eating can definitely influence how we feel from day to day and what we eat. Then A. So the A is avoid mood altering substances. This can include illicit drugs, prescription drugs, alcohol. I would even include sometimes mood altering substances can be highly caffeinated or excess in caffeinated drinks, because that can certainly intensify, increase anxiety, increase agitation with some individuals. Then we have the S, which is sleep. So getting a balanced sleep, making sure you have good sleep hygiene, you're getting enough sleep. It's restful sleep and not just off and on. I've had many clients that merely kind of nap throughout the day, and so their sleep, kind of restful sleep, is horrible, which then feeds into anxiety and depression. E is for exercise. Exercise is kind of a tricky word. I usually use more so the word activity, so getting up and active. Exercise sometimes has the connotation that you have to be in pumping irons at the gym, or you have to be running. For me, exercise, I use activity to, even if it's get up and you're going around your house, you're doing activities around the house, outside of the house, you're taking walks, whatever that might be. The Dear Man skill has to do with effective communication. So the Dear Man technique is really that interpersonal effectiveness, The D stands for describe. So make sure you stick to the facts. Don't get off in the weeds of unnecessary elements of the situation. Stay on what the issues are and what the facts are, and don't get off on the fringes. E is for express. So explain things how they are to you and how they're affecting you. Let's not point fingers. Let's not do that. Let's really communicate how it's impacting you, both personally and, if the situation's right, professionally. A stands for assert. So making sure that you assert factors that you want to see in the near future. So, and really being specific of what those assertions are, or what you're asserting, those particular factors are that you're wanting to have and see. So make sure they're specific, and the A stands for assert. R stands for reinforce. So this really has to do with, instead of insulting other people through assertion, this gets to actually reinforcing and rewarding them. It's really staying grounded, that you want to come to a compromise or maintain the relationship. So R is to reinforce, reinforce not only kind of what you kind of want and stick to what you want, but as the person reacts in a particular way, reward them with thanks, and reinforce that. The man portion has to do with being mindful, so don't get off track by past experiences. Don't bring out grievances in a way that disrupts this communication process. So be mindful of the current moment. The A stands for appear and act confident. So that is making sure that you are making eye contact, that your shoulders are back, head is up, and appear and act the way that communicates that assertiveness or strength without being overbearing or insisting or insulting. And then N stands for negotiating. So not every coworker, not every boss, not every individual, whether partner, spouse, kid, is going to agree with you. And so this, it doesn't mean you just abandon this activity or abandon this skill, but you hear the other person out and you attempt to find a healthy compromise. So negotiate, find a common ground where you and the individual can meet. So that's the Dear Man technique that's often used to help with interpersonal effectiveness. So give fast is also part of interpersonal effectiveness. This has to do with improving those relationships with others. So Dear Man really is to help you or help clients in really kind of getting what they need and being assertive without being overbearing. So give fast really is kind of maintaining and building relationships. So give portion is to do it in a gentle manner. It's to show interest and be interested in the other person, and not self-focused and you talk over the other person about only yourself, but to be interested in the other. The V is to validate. So really teaching clients to pay attention to how the other person is feeling. Even though you may not agree, it's to begin to validate and acknowledge how the other person is feeling. And then to do so in an easy manner. So to be flexible in the way you talk, to keep the voice and the tone down, and again, in an easy manner. It's not overbearing. The fast portion is make sure that you're fair in the way that you approach things, and be fair to yourself. Also be apology free. So this isn't necessarily it's my way or the highway, but it's also admitting that you don't have to apologize for everything. That just because you did something doesn't mean you have to be kind of overly apologetic for what happened, or for a decision you make. Merely saying, hey, this is what happens, these are the facts, and then learning how to move forward. The S is to stick to your values. So then, always kind of being true to yourself, being true to your values, and maintaining that and standing up for that. And then finally, truthful. So making sure, again, that you're not bending the truth or telling lies, but it's sticking to what you know to be true and stating things in the facts and being truthful. Okay, those are some of my favorite concepts of DBT. Thank you.